we would travel from Lesotho, drive from Mozambique to Lesotho, so experience things. The first one was having a car crash with my parents in the 80s. Yeah. And they were like, where's this family going to go to hospital? Like, there's 3 races in this car. Where is this family going to go to hospital? We were not seriously injured. I think in the end, we all went to the Black hospital. I mean, I was small. I was maybe 6. And we had to have special permission to stay in a hotel. Like, we can stay in the hotel room for the night, but you guys cannot come into the dining room. Which I'd experienced coming to Joburg. Like, say we would go to England in transit. We stayed at the Johannesburg in Hillbrow. We loved it. We loved Hillbrow because I guess it was the mixed place. So I think from small, I saw what was happening. And we were blessed enough not to live here and not suffer.
I mean,
people can say what they want about Lesotho and whatever, but we are so lucky to have not
absolutely.
Grown up during apartheid.
Yeah. Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Baffoe. In this podcast, I speak to Africans from across a multitude of sectors, including business, art, culture, media, design, technology, advertising, and everything in between, delving into their journeys and reflecting on the lessons they have learned along the way. It's about gaining insight into why and how they do what they do. These conversations offer a treasure trove of takeaways on a wide range of topics, including craft, relationships, wellness, parenting, entrepreneurship, and much more. So my guest today is Maria McCloy, a true cultural tastemaker through her PR and comms and media work in music, entertainment, culture, art, fashion, and film. She is owner of Maria McCloy Publicity, owner and creative director of Maria McCloy, which does shoes, accessories, and clothes, as well as an urban culture writer. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
And DJ. You forgot the DJ. Sometime DJ, yes.
And sometime DJ. Actually, not sometime. It feels like
once a month-ish, ne?
Yeah, so that's a regular DJ.
Yeah, I mean, the nightlife scene has changed and is changing, so less than I'd like, but yeah, let's keep it at once a month.
Yeah, I saw you. You're very open about your views of the change in Joburg's nightlife and spaces in Joburg over the last 20 plus years now?
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I've been in Joburg since 97. So, like, I remember I saw your talk where you were talking to Simpiwe Dana about meeting her in the days of those open mic sessions in Yeovil and 206.
Yeah.
Monday Blues in Yeovil.
There was Monday Blues in Yeovil, 206. There was Jungle Connection in Doornfontein. There was stuff in Baseline.
Yeah.
When it was still in Melville.
Yeah, the small baseline. It felt like there was Tandor, there was 115, there was those scenes Kenny came out of, there was Le Club. It felt like there was a lot of variety. And there was the Northern Sub. You know, people were partying in Sandton and Midrand and Rosebank as well. There was a whole gay scene, remember, in Jutta Street, Braamfontein had a whole strip of gay clubs, which is like really progressive if you think about it. And I mean, I guess we've gone through many incarnations. The Rosebank clubbing scene, the Braam clubbing scene. I mean, the city changes and the city's going through a lot of things. So I feel like we used to have, I mean, not to sound too much like a granny. And you were talking to some people like you.
It does sound a bit granny-ish.
It's not granny-ish. It's like we had more. And now there's a sort of uniform kind of way of looking, being and accessing culture. Whereas before I felt there were many scenes and we could partake in all of them. Now it's a very sort of bottle service.
Look, I partially agree with you. And look, I haven't been part of kind of the night scene for 1 or 2 decades now.
Okay, that's grandpa-ish then.
Yeah, well, I'm comfortable with it. You know, I've embraced it. I've embraced what did Loisa Gola call it? I've embraced my grumpy old man. Like I embraced it a while ago. My question would then be: is it the variety for us and our generations has gone? What is it like for the kind of younger generation?
I mean, I guess they wouldn't know because this is the life they're living. But I mean, the beauty of age, I mean, contrary to popular belief, there is beauty of age. We kind of have a bird's eye view. And I would say, yes, I'm harking back to the 90s and early 2000s, but I would say even 2 years ago, there were more things to do in the city. Sort of a variety of places like things like Newtown, Braamfontein, and Maboneng are shifting, and those places don't have as much going on as they used to, and it's, I guess, to do with, the country, safety, security, the state of our cities, that type of. I mean, if someone came to town and you wanted to take them to a live music show, where would you take them? Or if you just wanted to take them out to experience Amapiano culture, where would you take them? Or if you wanted an indie dive bar, would you still go to the street in Melville and have all those places to take them? Not really.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you've maintained or retained an element of being kind of plugged into the spaces. So for me, it is very distant because I kind of stepped away at some stage.
Yes, of course. We have things to do. We have deadlines. We got to wake up early. If you're 50 plus, you can't go to bed after 2 and function in the morning.
Absolutely.
It's different for us.
What brought you to Joburg?
What brought me to Joburg? In 1997, I had graduated at Rhodes University. Rhodes University in Grahamstown, Makhanda, as a journalism student. And over there, I had met Kutlwano Skosana and Zino, who were a year ahead of me. Yeah. So in 1995, when they graduated, that was my second year, their third year, they're like, we're going to Joburg. Zino's from Zimbabwe, and Kutlwano was a Soweto girl, but her parents were based in Midrand. And they were like, we're going back to Joburg and we're not going to look for jobs. We want to start a media company. And will you join us? I remember that meeting. We had a meeting on the Rhodes rugby field outside the school newspaper was at the Union and RMR was at the Union building, and then there was a field. So we sat down there and they told me, this is what we want to do when we leave, and will you join us? And at that time, we were 3 friends, journalism students, like serious journalism students, into, we didn't bunk. We were into like our assignments and into the news and into culture and into our assignments, looking at Drum Magazine and that type of thing, but also very much going to parties. There was a party called Bow Wow, which our friends hosted, that played all the latest Kwaito and all the R&B stuff. And when Tebe came to town, it was exciting. And we'd go home and watch all the Kwaito artists performing. I would go home to Lesotho. They would go to their homes, and we'd come back with, how we were engaging culture, and we were very much into buying magazines. We would go to the Grocots and the CNA looking for American magazines like Vibe and The Source. And, we had grown up on the upbeats and the smash hits and the #1 magazine. So maybe, like me for one, I had got there thinking I'd be a journalist covering what was happening in politics because, hey, it was 1994. I thought I wanted to be a political journalist. I was buying Mail and Guardian at school and listening to 702, but also listening to Metro FM and all of, watching Studio Mix and Toyota Top 20. So I had that mix. But when I got to Rhodes, I was like, I want to be a journalist that covers culture. And when I worked at the school newspaper, I did write about cultural movements happening on campus. And when Kutlwano and Zino had this meeting with me, they were like, we think you'd be our perfect partner. We want to go to Joburg and start our own magazine. And we want to start a company called Black Rage Productions. Will you join us? So then I did. So they came to Joburg. Zino worked full-time on the project. Kutlwano started working at 702. And I would come up every holiday and we would formulate what we wanted this magazine to look like and the business plan around this magazine. We even got some funding. They met a funder who funded the first business plan around Rage magazine, and we started to shop it. And in that time, as I was about to finish, I applied to be an intern at the Mail and Guardian, which was like, this is my dream job. And Shaw Blino was the arts editor. And I was obsessed with the show he presented. Him and Jerry Ransedi presented a show on SABC called Artworks. And since boarding school, I was at boarding school at KZN, St. Anne's in Natal, I would watch Artworks. I would read Mail and Guardian. I wanted to be part of that. I'd read Mail and Guardian. I saw Itumelengwa Mahabani's stories, Boo the General stories, Farrell Heffergy, Charlotte Bauer, Bafana Kumalo. I was like, as much as I was idolizing pop stars and into hip-hop and into Madonna and Bjork and Snoop and Dr. Dre, I idolized writers, and I wanted to be part of that. So I got that internship, and I felt like, I'm not even out of campus, and I've got my dream job. So I came to Joburg in January of 1997 to take up my internship and also join Kutlwano and Zino.
Would you say that because your influences, the three of you, your influences were from outside of South Africa, it gave you a different lens when it came to kind of music and culture and what you're exposed to?
I would say, that was such an important, and we very much all shared a Pan-African kind of headspace. And well, my father was from England, and my mother is from Lesotho, and I was born in England, but then very soon after, we were living in Nigeria and Sudan. That was me as a small child. Then back to England, and then Mozambique between 5 and 10. And then I got to Lesotho when I was 10. And then I went to boarding school in South Africa when I was 13. But I suppose, you must have some memory. I don't remember anything of Nigeria and Sudan, but I think my parents' headspace was, of course, Pan-African. Where they were living was around the continent. Their context was around the continent. Their friends were from all over the place. I remember school in Mozambique, and because it was an international school, my friends were from everywhere. There was ANC exiles, but people also from throughout the continent and throughout Europe. And then I got to Maseru Prep, and 1 year at Machabeng, which is where I would have seen you. Yeah. I wouldn't have been cool enough or old enough to know you then, because if we have, how old are you?
53 now.
So if we have a 4-year age difference, that's a big difference when you're little.
Yeah,
but I remember you and your sisters and brothers were my, associates. And I remember you, I would say in high school we started, when I was a little older, in my teens, then I started talking to you properly.
Also a lot of the people around you who were younger than me, I was close with. So Temba,
Shazida,
Rashid.
But when I wasn't probably an 11-year-old, and you were 14, there was no way we would have interacted. So, from those years, it was a very sort of maybe idealistic and super international and super mixed Maputo and Maseru life. And I really appreciate that, because I see those years as formative. What I've done in music and writing has always been about showing off the African continent, the beauty and the greatness, and because it is beautiful and great, so it must be documented, It's not forcing it, it's the truth. We've always been doing wonderful things in creativity, and I wanted to write about it. And when we had a website and TV show, it was about showing the world, and maybe even showing ourselves so we don't forget, because, apartheid and colonialism are about making you forget or make you hate yourself, or maybe make you not appreciate yourself. So all three of us had that kind of view. But going back to school, if I think about my friends group, everywhere I lived, I learned about different people's cultures. And I think maybe we take it for granted, but also our backgrounds. From our parents, you don't expect everyone to be like you, and it isn't strange to us to have friends who are everything, and you don't have one standard of judging things, because people come from different things, and you can draw from that. I think I had friends who are still my friends. When those friends from school in Lesotho are still my closest friends. I'd say Lindy and Ella, they were Xhosa and American, so I learned about Xhosa culture from there. Then there was Catherine, who's Ugandan, and then our neighbors were Liberian. Then there were some kids up the road who were Ethiopian and Swedish, and some other American kids down the road, and of course people from Lesotho. Then my parents' own cultures. To me, all of that you can see in what I design, and also what I DJ, and also what I write about, and also the people as a publicist that I push. It all comes back to that same worldview that, my parents gave me.
What was it like going to, or coming to South Africa to go to boarding school with that background? So, and I asked that because I came as a 18, 19-year-old.
Yes.
So I was I came for university.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I was exposed to, let's say, this race-driven lens.
Yes.
Having grown up in a space, in a family and in a country where that was not prominent, right?
Yes, exactly.
My mix is Ghanaian and German, but I grew up without my mother.
Yes.
And my entire family, I always joke and say I was the white sheep of the family, because literally everybody else is, West African dark.
Yeah.
But I'd never thought about it, and that was that was kind of my context. And then coming to South Africa as a 19-year-old and going straight into res in 1992.
Yeah.
So before the elections.
Yeah.
And I grappled with it. I grappled with the idea of identity driven by race for a very long time, even after I moved here and got married. And it took me a while to make sense of that.
Yeah.
What was that like as a 13-year-old? Now you've been around the world and you're growing up both your parents, and you have a particular understanding of who you are within context of
and it was
society.
Never a thing. Like people in South Africa are like, no, you've never experienced racism from either side. Like, no, luckily not. I know it does happen, but I didn't. I've never experienced, any kind of hostility on either sides of my family or any kind of othering or, bad attitude. So,
but also moving. But I mean, I think
I know.
I think it's also moving here where there is a category for us.
Oh yes.
Because of complexion and hair texture.
So I thought when we were little, and I knew the word colored because that was also used in Lesotho, right? So I thought colored was the word just for people.
I never heard it.
You never heard the word colored? I knew of the word colored. I mean, I guess because I knew that word, and I thought that was just the word if you were mixed or brown. And then as you get older, you're like, oh, in South Africa, it's a separate racial category. Yeah. Like there's black, white, colored, Indian. But in our friends groups and we have friends who are all of that, and we also have friends who happen to be half black and half Indian or half black and half white, and they like us saw ourselves as a mix of both. Yeah. Like I was like, okay, it's not a separate category to me. I mean, I grew up, I never had the so-called identity crisis, like what am I, or any of the like, do I have to choose now? I never felt that kind of thing. I still don't. But I mean, I do understand the world's categories. I know in South Africa there's a word colored. I know in America everyone's seen as black. They're going to be a métis in France. You're going to be in New Orleans. You're going to be what do you call a Creole? I'm aware of all the different words someone could call me, and I understand where they're coming from. But I'm clear about who I am. So you must understand where the world sees you. You're going to go somewhere and people are going to call you hey whitey or hey pinky or hey blackie. It depends on their context, and you must be clear. And our parents, gave us enough confidence and knowledge to understand these kind of things. But yeah, it was a big jump going from school in Lesotho to boarding school.
The continent, Mozambique, Lesotho.
To boarding to South Africa in 1989. Yeah. So, and as much as schools were mixed then, and it's an incredible privilege to go to these schools, like these beautiful elite boarding schools. And that's why we went. And I wasn't the only one. Quite a few people from Lesotho went to St. Anne. So there was people before me who had been there. And even now, I mean, the princess of Lesotho went there, etc. Okay. So, there was a precedent of girls going through the school. And but, it was apartheid. And as much as those private schools were allowed to be mixed, you later learn actually there was quota still on those schools. So if it's 300 white girls, there's maybe 10 or 15 black girls in total. So already that was a jump. And the teachers were, I think we had a really progressive education because, we did Richard Reeve, and I look back at it, our history was really progressive, and we did Chinua Achebe and all that. So the teachers were progressive. But there was no black teachers, for instance, which was also different from me, who had always had black and Indian and white teachers and international teachers. So yeah, I definitely... it was South Africa in 1989. It was a big difference. And I remember when my parents came for the first open day, it felt like the whole school came out to stare at us, which I think they did. Because I bumped into someone and they're like, yeah, I remember when your parents came and we all came to look. I was like, yeah, I remember. And I remember there was a time, there was two popular guys, a black girl, a white girl kissed a black boy at Hilton, and the school was ablaze with talking about that. And then I heard all the opinions, and I was like, oh, wow, when that happened, I was like, oh, I thought you were my friend, but you have some really, you think it's wrong and you don't think it's fair on the children? Like they're sitting in front of me, like I would never do that. I can just be friends with them.
Wow, yeah.
It's not fair on the kids because that's how they were brought up. It was a big jump. But I was incredibly privileged to go to a school like that. And a lot of what I am is from the history and writing and drama that I got to develop of myself over there. Yeah. I think you know because you were older and it was big for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, also
I was not.
I was very divorced from South Africa, so
it's where I developed my politics there, and it became like I had never had to be a political person or think about these things. My parents hadn't really talked about that type of stuff. You know, I mean, in the back of our minds are because we had friends who were in exile and people whose moms were in exile or in Mozambique that I was friends with. My best friend was Kimi, who had to suddenly leave because all the exiles were kicked out of Mozambique. So that was my context of things. But having to fight about racism or stand up for myself or tell someone, you can't really call people coons in front of me. Or you know, why are you calling the people who work here boys and girls? Like, or people will tell you like, oh, you're so much more different from the other Africans. You speak so well. You're so different. And you're like, what? No, I'm the same actually, but you're small. You're only a 13-year-old having to. That's where I learned how to navigate South Africa.
Yes, I was raised with very kind of clear political views, and my father at some stage lectured political science and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew what was going on in South Africa. But for example, my father was banned in South Africa till I was about 18, 19.
Mm-hmm. So you never even came to South Africa?
So the first time I came to Joburg, I must have been 17, 18, and came to Joburg for a weekend with friends, right? I just knew the airport. In those days, Jan Smuts, in transit.
Yeah.
So I knew what was going in South Africa, but I knew it from like an intellectual and theoretical perspective.
Sure.
I wasn't really exposed to it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I end up here for varsity as an 18 going on 19-year-old. 2 years before, I started in 92. So 2 years before democracy. So my experience of the space and my experience of all of these things was very different because I understood it from a distance. Like even family, friends, my father would have these political discussions. We had family, friends and uncles and aunts who were in exile.
And you were listening to the BBC World Service and you knew, and Lesotho's border, you knew about mining. Yeah. I mean, it's so, in our world.
I remember when Cry Freedom, the movie came out.
We all went to watch it.
And we all went to watch it, but it also showed, we had basically one cinema, Kingsway, with one hall or, one room. And I remember Cry Freedom eventually ran for over a month. Because people were coming from South Africa
to watch
to watch it.
I remember that.
And, we, at some stage, I used Telebridge with my father because of issues for him of crossing the border. So I knew what Telebridge looked like. That's why my experience was slightly different.
Yeah,
because I was very divorced from the space.
We would travel from Lesotho to in between Mozambique. We'd drive from Mozambique to Lesotho. So I experienced things. The first one was having a car crash with my parents in the 80s.
Wow.
Outside Freda. Yeah. And they were like, where's this family going to go to hospital? Like there's 3 races in this car. Where is this family going to go to hospital? We were not seriously injured. I think in the end, we all went to the Black hospital. I was small. I was maybe 6. So, it's flashes, I remember. Then we had to have special permission to stay in a hotel. Like we can stay in the hotel room for the night, but you guys cannot come into the dining room. Which I'd experienced coming to Joburg. Like say we would go to England in transit. We stayed at the Johannesburg in Hillbrow. We loved it. And we loved Hillbrow because I guess it was the mixed place. We didn't know as kids, this is actually the only hotel in the whole city you can... the only hotel in the city you can stay at. And I still remember taxis saying, no, you can't come in the taxis, or going to restaurants and them saying you can't sit here or you can't sit at the window. So I had experience. I knew you go to the border and you sign all 3 of you are going to sign a different paper to get across the border. So I think from small, I saw what was happening. And we were blessed enough not to live here and not suffer
I mean,
people can say what they want about Lesotho and whatever, but we are so lucky to have not grown up during apartheid over here.
We used to drive to Swaziland, for example, at some stage, but it was like you drive there, like you don't really stop, you don't really engage your spaces. You kind of leave one place, you stop at a cafe in the Free State, and you buy all the stuff that you need, and then literally you drive the rest of the way there. And I remember being in Machabeng, and we had a sports trip to Swaziland.
Yeah.
And so we're all in a bus. It must have been about probably Form 4, Form 4, Form 5. So we're all in a bus, and we stopped, at a petrol station, and, we all ran into the bathroom, and we're totally mixed. I mean, Swedes, Norwegians, English, Nigerian, Ugandan, Mosotho, and we all go into the toilet as guys. And I remember, so a group of us go into the toilet, and there was a man at the urinal. Like, I know it's it's explicit, but there was an Afrikaner man at the urinal.
Yeah.
So we all just go in, we use the toilet, he leaves, and we go out and we get into the bus. And as we're about to pull off, a police car pulls in.
Oh, wow.
And so the teachers get out the bus and talk to the policeman. And I just remember after that, we didn't stop anyway. Because...
What did the policeman say? Nothing.
Eventually they let us go.
What, did he come and question you?
He talked to the teachers, but the issue was, for some of us, the toilet was behind the toilet.
Oh, right.
It's like the wall... Because this was in the 80s. So there's like a wall behind. So black can go to the wall behind, which is outside, which is basically just the drain. And, the white kids, only the white kids should have actually gone inside. But we all just went in because it was not within our context or our reference point. So we were just like, we're going to the toilet.
Yes. As one does.
Yeah. So, I mean... You guys started, because Black Rage was part of, let's say, pioneering platforms. I mean, like you're saying, Kwaito was, for me, it's starting to really hit its peak.
Yeah.
But there was just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you were one of the first websites we knew.
Yeah.
What was that conversation like? I mean, so you have the meeting about you're going to start this business. You come up to Joburg.
Yeah.
You're interning, but eventually you're kind of like, okay, we're going to create a website.
At
a time when...
There was barely any websites.
I
mean, we were introduced to email and websites at journalism class at school and university. How are we going to make money? We didn't... That was one of the things that was never our first aim. So we were not thinking of making money. We were thinking of we're like, oh my God, this culture around us is amazing. Kwaito's great. There's also hip hop, there's spoken word, there's fashion, there's poetry. We want to cover this all. So we're like, we want to start a magazine. So we came up with a beautiful magazine idea, and we went to TML, Times Media Limited, that now had Elle Magazine, Sunday Times. We did a presentation to a woman called Giselle Wartham Ames, who was the publisher.
Yeah.
And they loved it and they wanted it. Imagine that, I mean, if you think about and we were all like, I was 21 and Julie was 22 and Zeno would have been like 24. And I remember doing the presentation, printing it out. Charles was there next to me, Ferial Hafaji. I was like, I'm printing this thing out. We're doing a presentation at TML tomorrow. So we did it. We had an idea of how it's going to look. I think we had a dummy. We had all these interesting ideas of how to deliver it. We want to also stock it at places, not just CNA, but also record stores and clothing places. And they really loved it and they wanted to do it. But then they told us, but we're going to own it. And that's where we're like, we can't be owned.
Okay.
We're like, we don't want someone telling us what to do.
Yeah.
We think it's important to have control over the product. Was that principled? Was it naive? So then we didn't publish Rage magazine with TML. And at the time, we had an accountant, Mr. Roussos, and then he was like, our accountant. We had an accountant and a lawyer. That's also like David Dyson. We read about David Dyson because he was like the struggle journalist or did media law. So we're like, Mr. Roussos is going to be an accountant. I think we met him via Kutlwano's parents. And David Dyson's going to be our lawyer. And we had a sense of like, we must have ownership, which I think is really good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So the accountant was like, oh, my brother Angelo has got a company making websites. Why don't you put the magazine online? And we're like, okay. So Zeno's like, well, I'm going to work full time and like executive producer, kind of, overseeing, producer. Kutlwano's at 702. Maria, you're going to you're at Mail and Guardian covering Kwaito and hip hop and fashion, and that's your network and your contacts. You're going to we're all going to go to Angelo's company, and we built the website with him. And we found some people to do the graphics. Dikenkeng Tukwa, Bafokeng's sister.
Yeah.
She had made these amazing, which is also very forward thinking, like black characters like Bantulas, black superpowers, Xhosa women, but all as sort of cartoon graphics. So she did the graphics for us, and then we found some other guys to do the graphic design, and they ended up doing our graphics for Basic, our TV show. Because our website idea morphed into Street Journal in the end, but before that there was our first TV show called Basic.
Basic, yeah.
And before Basic we cut our teeth at and Bradley and Bianca and Shane. And before that we cut our teeth at Channel O. And Channel O came out of my internship at Mail and Guardian. Because Charles, my editor, he said Pam Devereux Harris, who had a company called Devereux Harris.
Yeah.
She said, Pam Devereux Harris said there's a new Pan-African channel starting. And as much as I did all Yvonne Chaka Chaka's video, all Brenda Fassi's videos, all Lucky Dube's videos, Pam Devereux Harris did everyone's videos. So she was pitching for a new music channel. So my editor at Mail and Guardian, Charles, said, oh, I know these kids, Maria, Kutlwano, and Zeno. Why don't they become your urban culture consultants? So all of that was happening around the same time. We were building rage.co.za. We helped Pam Devereux Harris with her pitch. And she got it. She pitched it to Zandi and Zalo. Imagine, like from Bob TV and 702, like, wow, I'm in the room with Pam Devereux Harris and Zandila and Zalo. And so we became part of Pam's Channel O team. We advised them on the culture, which was very much the research we had done. Well, our research was our own knowledge, really, of our scene. We
the lives we're living, which is part of...
Yeah, that was part of what we pitched to Giselle when we wanted to do a magazine, and that knowledge also part of what we helped Devereux Harris with when we were pitching what would become Channel O. So yeah, that was an amazing year. That would have been 1999 or so that Rage.co.za was born, and so was Channel O born. No, that was not 99. That was 97, because that's when I was a Mail and Guardian. It was earlier. So yeah, the way it all happened really organically. Even the website, it was because our accountant pitched the idea to us, and we're like, that's perfect because it's ours. Just gonna start writing stories and getting other young people to write stories.
I love serendipity. It's like I love how when one looks back, sometimes it feels very linear, but it's kind of like you end up where you're supposed to be.
Everything. Like, I don't sit around thinking of my 5-year plans or like agonizing. It's all serendipity, guidance, my networks, the things I've been talking about and thinking about, people I know, my background. It's very much serendipitous. So I agree with you on that. And even the timing of the website, it was the perfect time because, like you said, we're part of pioneering. So we're pioneering something, but we wouldn't have anything to pioneer if we were not covering the other people who, like us, had been unlocked by the end of apartheid. So I can go talk to Sun Goddess and Stone Cherry. I can go to a poetry thing you're doing or something Ken Zero's doing, or go to the club where Bionic is, or go to 206 and watch drum and bass, or talk to the house producers and guys, DJ Mbuso and them at Soul Candy and 115, and Glenn Lewis's Mid-Tempo, and the first house compilations Fresh is doing, and of course the birth of Kaya FM and YFM. I mean, these are things to write about,
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying they were not things to write about, because I have my own, like I said, I was also like into the Brenda and Yvonne and Lucky Dube and Chico and all of the things I was watching on La Puluja in the 80s and reading Tribute magazine, like I had my own writer idols, and people have always been doing things, but the end of apartheid made it something different because we owned it and we were free. It's not to say we're the first creatives. It's a mistake young people do, thinking they're the most creative and the most groundbreaking when other people led the way for you, even now.
And everything is new.
Like, everyone, and you struggled harder. No, people struggled harder than you and were also doing stuff, just the context was different. Just like what we're seeing now in our TikTok, Amapiano, Spotify kind of age. People led the way for that too.
Very random question. So when did people stop getting the reference Maria Podesta?
That is a myth about me that I'm Maria Podesta, which is, I wish.
No, so for me, I didn't see it.
Some people, some of the youth meet me and think I am the Maria Podesta of the Jonina song. I'm like, no, that song was a hit on campus. Yeah. And then Kutrano and Zino started calling me Podesta because the song was out. Yeah. It was it was a hit. We loved it. So, of course, when social media came around, I was like, well, what else am I going to call myself on Twitter but that? But if you're 21 now, you don't know.
You have zero context. I remember watching Jonina in Roma, like performing at a big hall there, at a party there. So whenever I kind of see that name in reference to you, automatically. So for example, the whole morning today, it's been ringing in my head. Because I was kind of preparing to have this conversation. Last
week was Thandiswa did a show at Lyric Theatre, which was beautiful. It was her Belede album and her Sankofa album only. And I was standing outside backstage waiting for her. And so was Leo Mile, the young singer from Lesotho with Msaki. And as I walked through the door, they did the little...
Hey, Maria Podesta.
They sang Maria Podesta for me. I was like, ooh. But it's not me, but that's cute. And I'm glad the youth know those songs. It means it was a really powerful era.
It does feel like from a music perspective, and I think we're starting to get there here. Internationally, I've been seeing it happen a lot, where the older artists are starting to kind of, let's call it, have a second life. With one of the things I always lamented in, for example, hip hop, because it was always packaged as this kind of youth music and youth culture, the way a KRS-One or Rakim would be viewed was very different from how Mick Jagger is viewed.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's starting to feel like there's a space for them. And I think
like hip hop and house are not necessarily, and R&B are not necessarily just for young people.
Yeah.
It's not just a young man's game.
Yeah. And I've watched Tebe perform a couple of times, and I know there was like an old school concept that was done. It is starting to feel like at least even our artists here are starting to get that kind of second life.
Yeah, with the people are looking back to 30 years of democracy, and of course this music was part of that. So I think last year there was a lot of harking back and reminiscing. But people have been like Boom Shaka performing a lot, which is beautiful to see. And that show they put on, I don't know if anyone younger can outdo them. Like Boom Shaka and Tebe are as good as the young ones, if not better. There's a lot more like someone like Boom Shaka, the outfits, the hair, the look, the actual show they put. There's still a lot to learn from looking at them. But then there's people like Thandiswa and Simpiwe Dana who perform throughout. There's never been a break. Yeah, there's never been a break. Those kind of artists it's timeless, and they're going to perform till their Miriam and Hughes age.
Yeah.
But none of, the people on our label, Outrageous, none of them, sometimes you see, there has been like Back to the City where you'll see, Zabs and H2O, Proverb, Reason is still out there performing. So yeah, there you go.
Was it a natural progression for you guys to kind of go, so I get the kind of going from magazine, if it's online, to television.
Yes.
Which is all kind of media based.
In a way, but yeah.
How did the kind of the label now come about?
I think Dino always wanted to have a label.
Okay.
Everything we did, we wanted a media company when we started. We wanted the magazine. We wanted a record label. I think we wanted a presence across all media. And like what Rage.co.za became, we were going to make it Rage TV. It's just, again, we got to SABC and they said they're going to own the name. So they were like, you're not owning our name. So we're like, what are we going to call the show? Street Journal, presented by Scoop Makatini. And so many like great young people came out of doing the graphics on that show, directing that show, editing that show, styling that show. Like, the great thing about Black Rage Productions, a beautiful legacy, is all the people out there who began working at some point, whether they were writers and photographers with me on the rage.co.za side, or with Kutlwano and Zino on the TV side, or Zino on the music side. And, we all...
It was a launch pad for so many
people. Yeah, we worked
ways.
That's how I would say, would divide. We were all involved in all aspects of it. So, like, it organically worked. Like, we would make music for the TV show ourselves, and the content would come from rage.co.za, and like some of the rappers became presenters. Zabs was our first staff member. He was the first webmaster of rage.co.za, and then Fiona Okumu came in, and she came in doing writing on the website and writing for Channel O. So yeah, it was like just hearing all of that, it is organic. So you were saying, was it organic to have a label? Yeah, Zino always wanted to. So when we started out in Zino's study in his house, but by the time we moved to our first space in Norwood, he had already bought a bunch of recording equipment and started recording there. And the first Rage CD came out in 2002. And again, very organic. I didn't call myself a publicist then, but I am the one who invited the people to the Expressions launch of the small baseline, because we did rage.co.za, but I think what we really hit was when Zino had the idea of there were so many rappers going on to Rap Activity Jam. And before that, there wasn't really a hip-hop label, though. I mean, the Motherload CD had come out, and Lance was releasing stuff at Ghetto Rough, but there wasn't a hip-hop label per se. So Zino came in and he cooked that up in our next office in Norwood. So all those rappers was coming through, and they released Expressions. And those songs that idea was huge, and those songs were huge, and it was propelled by H2O's It's Wonderful, which is a funny thing to say right now, but a vernac, calling local languages a vernac hit was new then. So that was also both aspects were pioneering. And Street Journal was pioneering too, because no one had put local culture on TV like that in such a... It really mirrored the way young people... It was made by young people, it was for young people, totally in touch. I think Sia speaking Xhosa like that was also something groundbreaking. But we were never trying to be like, let's have a strategy meeting about how we're going to be pioneering and different. We were just being ourselves.
Yeah.
And so was everyone who worked for us.
And I think there's the benefit or the value of being young, but also being young, being bold, trusting in kind of your, let's say, internal process or creativity.
Yeah.
But also having the foresight to have an accountant and have a lawyer.
And support, parental support.
Because
when we said
it's creating it's in creating a foundation.
Yeah, but also support. Like, our parents could have been like, hell no. We're going to Joburg, start a media company. And you're looking at these 20-year-olds. But our parents supported us. And I feel the industry supported us. Like, people gave us a chance,
Yeah.
Like, there was no need for TML to have a meeting with us or Pam to take us seriously, or even those lawyers and accountants. I mean, now when you think of what a 20-year-old looks like, it must look ridiculous. We thought we were grown-ups.
Yeah.
And Charles, all the people who molded me at Mail and Guardian, all the contacts I made, people who were so good to us. I go to Kaya FM because Kutlwano became news editor at Kaya FM when it started. And you go there and like Sibongile Kumalo and Himasakela, just casually there, and so kind to you. I feel so many people guided us and molded us and took us seriously, and they must never underestimate that people gave us. You got to give people a chance, and you got to train people. You got to have faith in people, and people did in us.
You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. We delve into their journeys, the decisions they have taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the spirit takes us. Now let's get back into the conversation. I mean, you're saying that, and I'm just wondering, kind of, I guess, what's our responsibility now? Because like you're saying, I mean, in the poetry scene, I remember Spongile Kumalo sitting down, having conversations with Ladysmith Mabuza when he was running not baseline, Kippies in Newtown, and kind of going and performing there, and them taking an interest. And I wrote about this in my book, like standing outside an event and Papa Don Matera lecturing myself and Z Tula about the focus of poetry and the subject matter of poetry.
Yeah.
And just being exposed to these voices, even if it was just a conversation, a word passed, in a quiet moment.
Yeah.
And kind of going, because we are those people now.
We are.
And therefore, what's our responsibility? And I mean, I have teenagers, so that to a certain extent negatively influences how I look at it, because when you have teenagers or children, they're not interested in what you have to say because they're still carving their way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can get blinded by that.
Yes, of course.
Whereas like there's other teenagers out there that would possibly benefit from, a quiet word, a moment to experience what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
No, definitely. And it might not be teenagers, because like we were early 20s. And
Yeah.
you'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of people have said like, oh my God, I used to mail you. I was at UC2 and I would mail you at Rage and you were kind to me and you asked me if I wanted to write. And I can't even remember that, but there's quite a few people who did that. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did that. And I try to always be available for a conversation, and I'm accessible to whoever wants to ask about anything and to guide. I don't take like when people are like, will you be my mentor? I'm like, I need a mentor. And I feel like I have several people in my circle.
Yeah.
I go to people in my friendship circle for advice across whether it's in the publicity side, writing side, the fashion side. I am fortunate enough to have a lot of people who advise me that way. So I try and be that for anyone who asks me. I will always reply. Anyone who DMs me or WhatsApps me, whatever, yeah. But I would say a lot of time it's people watching you and seeing what you do. Just like I used to look up to people. People can also seeing what you do is also important.
Yeah. I mean, this idea of kind of mentorship or example from a distance.
Because some people were like, oh my God, we saw you as 21-year-olds going to SABC and presenting TV shows ideas, and then the TV shows happened. And I've met people who are quite senior in the world right now who are like, it was important for us to see me Kutlwano and Zino doing that. Or people who still look at Rage, like it doesn't matter where they are in the world right now. And they could be at Spotify or Carte Blanche or like have their own companies or editing this or doing music there or graphic design here or have their own media stuff going on. They still look at Rage as a kind of golden age.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like it could be like that. It doesn't have to be like super capitalistic or like no one cares about you or it's just about money. Like who you are made this whole thing.
And the end of Rage?
2009.
What prompted that? Because so the beautiful thing about watching it from the outside, it didn't feel like there was conflict.
No, there wasn't.
It felt, and you're all still friends. You're
yeah,
all still
definitely.
close,
Still my
right?
best friends, yeah. Seen them both this year.
But it was interesting. It was interesting watching from the outside where all of a sudden this thing that had carved a space for itself within broader society, so in business, in culture, in media, etc., in music, and then all of a sudden it's like the people that started it with the heart of it have just gone off and done their own thing.
Unceremoniously, we didn't even be like, okay.
It was just like, oh, wait. So, but they're talking to each other. They're friends.
Yes. 2009, 2008, So Black Rage Productions, we had the website, rage.co.za. We had the record label, Outrageous Records. We had the TV wing. The TV wing was where the money came from. It's not to say the other parts are not important, because that's cred, that's content, as they call it now. But the actual money making came from making shows for SABC. We did make shows for Channel O and for Trace. But the real money that enabled us to buy a house and buy cars and build a studio, that came from SABC. In 2008, the SABC collapsed. I would say it was the first state entity.
I remember,
And it was there was an economic crisis globally. So that had a severe impact on us. So basically, we ended in 2009 bankrupt. There was no way we could see, like, how are we we can't keep this going financially. Basically, that was it. But yeah, that was it. Kutwano was already doing her MBA. She had already left to do an MBA at the Copenhagen Business School. So she carried on with that. And Zeno went on to England to do his MBA. And I stayed in Joburg. And I became a freelance writer. And at that point, I started upping I had already been selling earrings and clothes at that point, but I started doing more of that because I quickly realized freelance writing is, I could write my whole arm off and I will make 10,000 Rand. I can work all week and write a lot. At the end of it, 10,000 Rand is not going to cover my bills. So I started selling clothes and earrings. I had been doing it, but I started doing more, going to people's offices, doing more markets. And then I met Tim Horwood. We sat together at the Hip Hop Awards. And even though me and Tim Horwood had been, or I'd even been at his Channel O audition, and we'd even lived on the same street, the same building, for some reason I became his friend at that moment. Serendipity. And I started hanging out with him, and he's like, hey, why don't you come and produce some World Cup content at MTV? And I was like, okay. So I did that. When I was at MTV, Sylvester Chauke, the marketing manager, who worked with Bianca Miles, who had been our presenter on Basic, he was like, there's a publicist job. You should take it because the World Cup's over. You're leaving now. I was like, I'm not a publicist. I'm a journalist. Publicists wear like heels and black outfits and they're fake. I'm a journalist. And then Bianca was like, babe.
Sitting here in predominantly a black outfit.
Oh, come on, but like with colors and bling. And Bianca was like, babe, you know all the journalists and you know everyone in the music industry. This is perfect for you. Just make it yours. So I was like, okay. So I got a new career. The first time I'd ever had a boss, there was manager, Sylvester. There was Alex Okosi. There was Tim, who was head of content. And so I became a publicist at MTV Base in 2010, shortly after Rage ended. But when I look back on that, because as it's happening, you're auctioning off your furniture, you're leaving, you're packing. I don't even know if we realized. It's only when we saw people saying like, what? When we saw they were closing, I was like, wow. I think while we were doing it, I don't know if we were so conscious that this really was an amazing and respected thing. And we were living our life and doing our thing. But the reaction afterwards and the kind of sort of reverence people talk to us like, oh my God, Rage, I did this, I remember that, Street Journal this, Outrageous, those TV shows. I was like, whilst we're going through it, we had to just keep it moving, It's only looking back at it that I was like, my God, how did we? I mean, that's a massive breakup, a massive life change. You've been doing it's your identity. You've been doing it since you were 20. You are now 35. You have no money. You have to make a new life. But looking back on it, that's major. But whilst we're doing it, we just had to keep moving and move on to new things.
So for me, the beautiful thing was, yes, it felt sudden because from the outside.
But for us, it was not.
For you,
us,
it wasn't.
It was like, I had a lot. I had to ask my parents, like, please bail us out. Please help. Please help. And they were like, my dad, I remember him being like, no, thank you for paying me back. Because when I got a job at MTV, I paid him for he's like, not every kid would have done that,
But for me, I think I guess it reflects, in its own way, it reflects what Black Rage was in the fact that you split up, but there was no conflict. Like you went through that process together, just like you went through the process of starting together.
Yes.
Because not many organizations end like that.
A lot of people steal from each other, or it's either it makes or break. Like most people say,
There's
don't go into...
There's a disagreement somewhere.
Yeah, don't go into business with your friends, is what everyone says.
I don't go into partnerships because I had 2 partnerships that ended badly.
Yeah.
And that kind of closed me off for many, many years of actually going into business with anyone, whether it's a friend, whether it's, because my experiences were always negative.
Oh, yeah.
So to watch that happen, maybe that's because, that it reflects the relationship that the 3 of you have.
Yeah.
And it's that respect and that essence of that relationship that started it, that grew it, and that ended it.
We were the perfect chemistry of like characters and capabilities, And it had to be us 3, I think. It couldn't be just 2 or just 1 or just that trio. It needed to be 3 of us. We propelled each other perfectly, and we brought exactly the right spices to the dish. What we didn't have was that money person. Maybe there should have been that one person who's really good at, actually, we have a chicken business on the side, so we're going to be, or whatever you're supposed, we're starting an advertising wing. But it doesn't matter, like you said, in your 30s. And I think that's why we also had a lot more cultural stuff going on then, because everyone was doing stuff for the love.
Yeah.
Maybe somehow life was cheaper, or, you could live in a 800 Rand bachelor flat and just do what you love. Right now maybe it's harder. You need so much money to do anything. But back then we were happy to make the product, and somehow we could still stay alive and do great cultural stuff. So I don't have this feeling like, oh my God, I didn't make any money. I don't care. If I die now, I already did what I wanted to do. And we're all fine and successful. They're living. Kutwano lives in America, and Zino lives in England. They have their families. They're doing other work. I'm doing my work, and I did what I wanted. If I die, I can say I did it.
When you're younger, it's easier to, let's say, fly by the seat of your pants.
Absolutely.
And just kind of try things and do things.
But do you think people still are? I guess they are. They are.
I think they are. I think they are in their own way.
Because look at this whole music culture they made. They made Amapiano themselves. That was themselves. They were not supported by anyone. The youth have created this movement.
And I mean, like I said, I'm gonna have a soon-to-be 18-year-old, and for example, he makes music and has been making beats since he was 12, 13.
And how would you feel if he said that's his career?
I wouldn't mind. What would be important for me is him knowing or understanding how to create some element of foundation within that space. I mean, he wants to kind of go in that area, like sound production, sound design, that sort of stuff. And maybe because I've been exposed to different parts of the industry, especially behind the scenes, I do have an understanding of how you can craft a life. But also the thing that I've been realizing more and more is none of our lives were linear.
Nope.
I did a BCom and I majored in economics, marketing, and business administration. And I went into the family business, the core of which was a management consulting company. And I started working for my father when I was 12.
Oh.
And I had a plan. Right? So, and my father designed my degree because I went into his area.
Right.
So there was a plan.
Right.
And now I'm known for working in the media and editing magazines. I did not study journalism, but I always wrote. And, at CNN in Maseru, they used to bring in rap pages and Vibe and all of these things for me. Like I literally used to order, and I had my little envelope there where they brought the stuff in for me because I was always interested in writing and music. And it wasn't what I was going to do for a career, but it just interested me. And I was into hip hop from
You have to do what interests you, generally.
But that wasn't my career. So my career path versus what I was interested in, they did not converge. I started writing poetry early Machave. And I wrote poetry right through high school and even through varsity. And they're somewhere probably sitting in boxes. I have poems that I was writing, and they were just in notebooks and in boxes.
Mm-hmm.
It was only in 1999 when I was in Joburg, and my family started a newspaper in Lesotho, and then I was in Joburg and trying to figure out how to make money. And I hustled, I don't know if you remember Cynthia Fongai.
Mm-hmm.
I was close to Cynthia, so I negotiated to write an article for Cosmo, because she was at Cosmo then, on Black Sunshine.
Oh.
Because I knew Neo Masoko and I used to follow them around the city.
Yeah.
And Neo was like, oh, we're going to be at a place in Doornfontein called Jungle Connection. So, we're going to be performing, so come there and we can do the interview there. And it was a Thursday night, and I get there, and first of all, it's, now Julius. I knew him with other names in Lesotho. Like, he grew up with the same age as my younger brothers.
Right.
And his younger brother was close to my youngest brother, Kwabna. So, like, I knew him. And then I get there, and people are getting up on stage and speaking their poetry. And I'm like, oh, you can do that? So after I did my interview, I came back the next week with poems, because I was like, oh, you can actually, but I've been writing those poems for a good 15 plus years. So even my entering the media was like, my family started a newspaper. I worked on the newspaper, and then I had a column.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Joburg and I'm trying to get some work, I meet one or two people, and then I hustle to write an article. And then every time I'm struggling a bit, I'm talking to people about writing articles. And then I end up in TV. But I only end up in TV because of Pepsi, Bokane, because I've known him.
What did you do on TV?
I started off actually writing proposals. So I would sit with Pepsi's teams, like, so Afro Cafe.
Okay.
I was part of writing the Afro Cafe pitch.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So because I could write, and I did when I worked for my father's consulting company, and then we had an IT company, I wrote proposals and I wrote reports. And in those days, I watched a crap load of TV. So when Pepsi was starting to pitch for stuff, I'd sit with him and he would talk about kind of what he wants to create, and then I'd put it in words on the page, because I could do that. Like, I've always been kind of able to do that. And then at some stage, so eventually I had about 3-4 clients. Like, whenever the request for proposals came out from SABC,
you would do that for
I
people?
had 2-3 people that would phone me up and go, okay, we want to pitch for this show. Then I'd sit with the people and would like brainstorm it. And then the director would talk about, okay, this is how I want to shoot it, and this is what I want the feel to look like. And then I'd write all of that down. And then at some stage, I joined the production, because he was doing a co-production with someone, Tsepo Desando, for a Venda Tsonga lifestyle magazine show, Zohashu. So
you're taking me back.
So I came on to do research on that.
Yeah.
Because they were struggling with like researchers. And I'm like, I'm a curious person anyway, and I always have been. So that's how I started. I worked with the production company for maybe about 2 years. I worked on Zooming In on Men, Afro Cafe at some stage, Making Moves, which was on SABC Education.
Makes me sad all these shows don't still exist.
So I created Making Moves with Pepsi.
Yeah.
Like, it was called something else.
Mm-hmm.
And by then I'd left, and I was actually consulting at the post office.
The post office?
Yeah. I was project manager for a public franchising project.
So look at this. There's no more post office. There's no more media. Things are changing.
Yeah. But my entering the kind of media space was because I've always been interested in it. But my work was never that until my father started a weekly newspaper.
Yeah.
But, I wrote poetry.
Yeah, you
myself.
had it in you. You weren't just interested, because interest is one thing, but you had the ability.
Yeah, and I did.
Then you got given the chances.
And I did those things for myself. It wasn't for, to make a living.
Yeah, we were not thinking like that.
Yeah.
Luckily, we didn't have to. Or it all worked out. Somehow we survived.
So where's your attention now? I mean, you've been doing publicity for what?
Since 2010.
So
I was at MTV till 2014, and then I branched out myself.
That's a long time.
It is. Time
but
flies.
At the same time, I mean, I don't know whether you do it deliberately or you do it consciously, but when I see you working on something, whether it's publicity for an artist or an event, anything else, when I look at your, the accessories you make and the clothing you make, etc., there is a thread. There's certain press releases, because I still every now and then still get press releases from people, but I know that if you ever sent me a particular type of press release, I'd be like, okay, what's going on with Maria now?
Would it be a product press release?
Well, yeah, maybe a product or a type of event. It feels like you've stayed true to a certain spirit or certain essence.
Definitely. When I went from being a journalist to working at MTV to now, I still stayed in the entertainment industry, within culture, film, art, so that when I nag you guys with a press release, you're not, I must respect myself and respect you guys. So I work with artists I love very much, and on projects I believe in, so I work with Thandiswa, I work with Ladysmith Black Mambazo, Nokulinda Mkhize, Kudzanai Churai. I worked on the Hugh Masekela, I work on Bra Hugh's Heritage Fest, Bashahuru, things at Constitution Hill. I worked on Afropunk. I work F&B Art Joburg. So I never wake up and I don't dread Monday, And sometimes the danger in all of this is that it ends up with me not having an off button, because what I love is like creativity. I like street culture. I like art. I like music. So my hobbies are sort of also my work, So it's all mixed into one for me. There is no line between all of it. And that's how, I love it, I need to get paid for it. I'm a grown-up with grown-up bills, so I make sure, so it's kind of organic. I don't ever pitch for work, really. People sort of come to me, they see my track record, and they know I can do a certain thing, even if I'm working with a brand like Nando's or KFC or with Standard Bank or FNB or, it will be with something that's to do with music and art. That's what I push. I would be no good at disaster management communications, and I'd be no good at trying to push a product. But there's people, and I respect them, who are good at that part of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I also do the clothes. It's interesting. Sometimes if you're having a downtime in the publicity, then the clothes stuff picks up, or if it all balances out.
Yeah. And the DJing?
The DJing, I never seek that out. That's something. Like clothes, I do, I started out selling earrings, then I started out doing vintage clothes. Around the time I started at MTV, that also happened I also took on a movie called Viva Riva to do publicity on. And I was like, what am I going to make as a media gift for this? And then I was like, let me make a wax print cloth, because this is a Congolese movie. Congolese people wear wax print.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a clutch bag. And that was 2011. And that became my first product outside of the earrings. Because the earrings, those were made, I made those in like Stopong in Lesotho with Dr. David McCloy. I met him outside the cathedral. He was selling in that area.
Yeah.
And then I'd come to Joburg with those earrings. I would design them with him, not knowing that's what I'm doing. I'd be like, ooh, make them bigger. And he'd be like, I'll see your ear's going to fall off. And I make it bigger, and I'd bring the beads. Then I got to Joburg. Suddenly I'm in selling in Stone Cherry. Sangodas take them on. I'm in a Marianne Fassler show. All the it girls are wearing the earrings. Then I'm in True Love, and that's how my fashion career started. Then I started selling vintage. The bags came out of Viva Riva, and that's when Maboneng market happened. So then I was selling every week, which was a different thing, And that's where I think that's where I started. That's where it became known as a fashion brand,
Yeah.
Some people, one person was like, what are you doing? You're a legend. Why are you working in a flea market? One person said that. To me, I was like, I'm making a project. I'm making a brand. It's Pan-African. It's beautiful. Everyone loved this clutch. No one was really wearing a lot of wax print. And then Nogulinda Mkiza, my friend, was like, why don't you could put it on a shoe. Then I found a guy in a basement who was making shoes in a basement in town. I was always in town. I can't drive, so I'm always walking around town. And that's where I find a lot of collaborators on bags, beadwork. So then he was opening up. I would buy shoes at like Ackermans and Mr. Price, and he would cover them. So that was the first incarnation of the shoe. And that's what got me real attention as a designer. I found myself in all the magazines. I did a TED Talk. I was, on CNN because the wax print on the shoe, people like, I recognize Sushweshwe from my life. I recognize wax print. I recognize this Vanda cloth from my wedding ceremony, but I was putting it on shoes and bags. And I became famous as a designer from that. And then one of my friends introduced me to an actual factory in Jeppies Town where I could make a high quality shoe, which I was wearing today from that factory, And then I had like a world-class shoe. I was like, you can put my shoe next to any shoe in the world. It's not going to fall apart in the rain. It looks beautiful. It's going to last. So then shoes was my main thing, and that's what set me apart, I think. That's how I ended up in Woolworths, Style by SA, and then in Tula Cindy's shop, Africa Rise, which is in Sandton. And now I make clothes. I'm relatively new to clothes. Do you know what I mean? So in all of this, I take like the shoe factory guy, I was like, those are my shoe daddies. I'm learning from them. And then clothes, I learn from I have Marianne Fassler to ask, Tula Cindy, Philippe Mazibuko. But the person who brought me into clothes is Ephraim.
Okay.
Ephraim from Efimol.
Yeah.
Over COVID, he said, now you got to get out the house. You're being a bit too strict. Why don't you can be strict. You don't want to get COVID and die, but just come to studio with me. And he said, whatever ideas you have, you can put those into clothes. So he generously took me to all the shops where he does stuff, factories, he was very generous to me. I started making tracksuits at his studio. And now today, what I'm wearing today I made, So this is in 5 years. In these 5 years, I've gotten better and better. Because in all of the things I've told you, we don't all start out great,
Yeah.
We're all learning as we go along. And you get better and you take advice from people. Like I started making knitwear this year. It's all, this is Ndebele inspired, this is Lesotho inspired, but I feel like it's African inspired, it's contemporary, it's beautiful. I always want to take African inspirations outside of, you must only wear this for a wedding.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can be cool in African streetwear, glamorous. And so now I think I'm part of like an African fashion movement, And I'm proud to be part of it. There's so many designers in Africa Rise. I think there's like 50 designers in there. Exactly. And then there's people like Tebe Magugu and Rich Mnisi and, all of these people taking over the world. And it's very important, not just so that we make money off fashion, but also so that like what you're wearing says a lot about you. And it's a visual language. And it's important, you have your Tyler and your Amapiano and your local fashion out there in the world. So it's not just Western aesthetics and Western music. And they're not just niche. So, that's really important.
And then, as if you don't have enough stuff to do, you go and decide to become a DJ.
That happened because I was always at, Kitchener's in Braam. And one day, how it happened was there was a girl called Colleen Balchin and Nakane, who is one of my clients. They had a performance at a place in Monchichi called in Town, which was in Town at that point. And Colleen was the DJ, and I was like, I love your set. It was so varied and so interesting. So I became her friend, and she was one of the curators at Kitchener's and also worked the door. And then she started an organization, I would say in about 2016, called the Pussy Party, because she rightly saw that there is a dearth of women and queer people in the nightlife scene. Like if it's a sausage fest in music, generally the execs are men, the DJs are men, the event producers are men, the people behind the bar. Like it's a very male heavy scene. So she wanted to change this, and when you change, you change in your space, like all of us, right? The moves we make, the way we're going to change the world is changing the way we run our houses and church and families and organizations and businesses. That's where change is going to come. So at Kitchener, she started an event called the Pussy Party, but it wasn't just an event, it also trains people. So now they charge a little bit, but then it was for free. Colleen and some other people. Right now she works with Fat Stokey. So she saw me, because I think it was Twitter, so sometimes I would tweet the music I played. Yeah. Or the music I liked. So Colleen was like, you play interesting music, you sound like you have interesting music taste, you must come learn to DJ. And I was like, no, I'm scared. And funnily enough, Akio, the DJ also, he did a birthday party where he was like, all my friends must come DJ for me. I'll train you, so come play. And I was like, I'm scared, I'm not doing it. But also before someone else, Chris Wilson, who was at MTV, had a birthday party, and he said, just play music for me. You choose the music and I'll have a professional next to you. And then Tim Horwood and Nogalinda Mkiza's wedding, they said the same thing. Come play some music. We'll have Reiko will play a set, but Reiko will stand next to you, so he will guide you. You just play the music. So actually, and also back in the day when with Rage, we did a compilation with Out Here Music, which was a German label. We did a compilation of urban African music. So that album had it was called Mzansi Music. It had 340 Mil, it had Kwaito, it had hip hop, and it culminated in a tour of Germany on a bus. Me and Kutlano on a bus with Mzegezeke, Bonga Muffin, Ntando, and Brown Dash. But how we launched that was with a show in Germany with Bongo Muffin first, 1 January. And I happened to be in the UK, so I came to the Bongo Muffin show, and the event was launched. And then Jay, who owned Out Here Records, was like, I can't DJ, so you go DJ. So then I was like playing songs, and the Bongo Muffin came out like, Maria, what are you doing? I was like, he said I should. So I think if you look back on it, I had this trajectory of where Colleen got to me and said, you sound interesting, come learn. And then I ran away from her for weeks. And then one day she's like, your name's on the flyer. You better come to lessons, because the gig's in 2 weeks, so I had no choice. And that was that. She didn't expect me, I started playing, and then people started booking me. And I love doing it. It makes me, I think you learn a lot. Technically you learn a lot, but more you learn about yourself and the world and about being true to yourself and reading a crowd and also not being scared to learn. Like the people like Colleen is like 15 years or 10 years younger than me, and I call her my mother. Like I'm not scared to be a baby, and I was a PR baby. I was the fashion baby, I was the DJ baby. And yeah, music, I don't pitch either. People heard about me and like me, whether you're going to pay me 10,000 Rand or 15 or 500 Rand or 1,000. If you want me to come play and you've heard about me, I do. But I do not have like, hi, my name's Maria McCloy, here's my SoundCloud, please book me. I think people come to the event, they hear the variety, which tends to be, well, Afrocentric from the 80s till now, with the 90s bias. People like it, and I always feel like a fraud still, and I still go for lessons, if I can, every week with Pussy Party, and I'm proud to be one of their alumni. Pussy Party has grown a lot of people like Lelo, What's Good, Fifla. A lot of people have come out of Pussy Party, and to me, I love that kind of movement where people just do stuff for the love of it, of the culture. It's like us, how Black Rage were. Want to grow the culture, it's not about music. And yeah, I'm glad to be an alumni, and I'm glad to just make people dance. I just want people to dance. I'm not trying to educate you, I'm not trying to whatever. I'm like, I love it, I play and people dance all night, and that's a great feeling.
So is that what's exciting you now?
I'm excited about all of it, and like I said, I don't have a boundary or I'm thinking of my next knitwear range, I'm thinking of tracksuits I want to work, I saw fabrics I like. I still want to, there's beaders in Durban or beaders at my. I want to, bead some more biker jackets. I still go to town and make wax print bags, and I embroider T-shirts in African-inspired embroidery. I'm excited by the shows I'm working with or the albums that are coming out. I'm excited to be, art fairs coming up. Yeah, I think what excited me now is the same as in 1997.
It feels like you're doing something that I believe we should all do, which is basically just building and living a life without worrying about, the compartments, like working or I'm doing this. It's just you live a life, and that life fulfills the different needs that you have.
Definitely.
And you don't get bogged down in, because it's easy to get bogged down in, oh my God, what's going to happen next week? What's my 5-year plan? The personal, the emotional, the spiritual, the professional, etc. And sometimes because we've made all of that stuff very kind of binary, or we've compartmentalized it, sometimes we forget that it's actually just about living a life.
Yeah, but luckily I can make, I believe I had training. I did the work to be good at what I do. I deliver to my clients. People heard I deliver, they hire me, I'm making a living. So then I'm privileged to be able to make sure I can do what I want to do. But, people call it pivoting. Like, I think I have my own little internal pivot that has made me do a bunch of things when I had to, instead, but I never sat there and thought, oh my God, I must pivot. But it kind of organically has happened. I guess you would have some insights, because we started as journalists, and now that world is rapidly changing in front of us. Like something like MTV and Channel O and Street Journal, and having a production company and having a website and working at a newspaper, all the things I've done in these 30 years, all of that is ending. And yes, things have changed. We have TikTok and Instagram and Spotify and iTunes and whatnot, but I'm concerned about, all the talented people from these worlds that now we don't have a place to go. It's all well and good. You might find me worrying next year. When you said, I'm like, it will be worrying when there's no press at all, because then what does a publicist do? And right now I'm already looking at my friends who are like some of the best journalists we've ever had. They're all not journalists anymore. Like, I was with Niren Tulsi and Tim Howard last week. We were all at my house, like literally being like, what are we going to do? Or my friend Carl Collison, also an amazing journalist. Or you meet people from MTV who are driving Ubers now. Or like other people who have no work, like, and newspapers are closing down. We're watching. I think this is my concern, like what's going to happen to us and what's going to happen to reporting. Like, there's political reporting that's going to suffer from the lack of media, but there's also cultural analysis that we no longer have. There's no one who's going to come and write a review of Art Fair or of like the meaning of Thandiswa's Sankofa album, or someone who's going to have a big piece on Shagai Lembe, or even a big piece on the impact of Amapiano around the world, or, someone who's going to do an interesting piece on what Tyler says about coloredness. Like, I'm sad and worried about media. I don't know how you feel.
So because I don't come from a media background.
No, but this is, you just told me about writing a column, Cynthia Vongai, making TV shows with Pepsi. You do.
I say that to give context, meaning that I was never absolutely vested in the medium.
Sure.
So how I look at it is, let's say, the evolution of storytelling.
Yes.
Right? So, because it all boils down to me, and it may be simplistic, but it's all storytelling. In one form or another, there's the story, there's the story being told. Mm-hmm. And there have been different ways of telling stories since for time immemorial.
Right.
There is a way of doing it has totally collapsed, and so for me, totally collapsed over 10 years ago. Like when I was a Destiny man, I was already seeing the collapse.
Oh, that was bad.
But this is my first stint. So 2012, 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
I was already seeing that collapse.
That's coming, yeah.
And I was saying the magazine will no more be the hero in the storytelling platform. I don't know what will be, but the magazine won't be the hero anymore.
That's the problem. What will be? What's going to take over magazines and newspapers? Because it's not online and it's not podcasts.
Yeah. So, but evolution of society, we cannot will there be one thing that takes over? We come from an era where it was radio, and then it was television, and then it was television and magazine, and each one was like the hero. There's an evolution going on, or a devolution, depending on where you're standing. Where it's going to end up, I don't know.
Where journalists going to end up is where I'm thinking.
So because I didn't study journalism, right? So even that, like I used to talk to young writers, and when I was in magazine, and they'd say, I don't know what I'm going to do after this. And I'm just like, well, the fact that you can write means you have certain skills and certain capability, which can exist in many different spaces. And because I came to media because I could write, as opposed to this is what I want to study and this is what I want to do, media for me was an opportunity. It was like, I can write. So I can write, and I'm interested in certain things. So
the you of today, what would the writer, where would Kojo now, if you were 20-year-old, just moved to Joburg and you can write, where would that go now?
I don't know that would have been, or that today, that would be the skill that I have that I'd pursue. I mean, I'm capable of multiple things. You're capable of multiple things. I ended up in writing because the opportunities came in that space. So I can't say that, okay, if I was 20 years old, I arrived here at 27, so I'd already worked.
Okay, young Kojo.
Yeah. But if I arrived in this environment, I don't know that maybe writing would have been the thing that I'd have pursued. When I came here, I worked for a cousin's furniture company to help him improve his admin and processes. And then I started an IT company. That's what I did when I moved to Joburg.
So you would say a person of today must be resourceful, resilient, flexible.
Absolutely. Which we had to be even then.
I mean, a human should be, yes.
Yeah, it was just a different time. So that's why I say I edited magazines, and I wasn't a big magazine person. It's not like I devoured magazines.
Yeah, but don't you miss it now?
Like
I miss a magazine.
I read magazines, but there's things that fulfill me, right? I'm still a reader. So like I read books.
Right.
And I still read books all the time. Writing as a writer, like I very rarely write. I'm looking to write the way I used to write, which is I'm writing because it fulfills something in me. I don't have to monetize it. It doesn't have to be my work.
But some people, the concern I'm talking about is that this used to be people's work, and now those people are workless because there is no more media like that. And there isn't even TV production like that anymore.
But you can lament it, or you can...
No, it's not lament it. It's like that's where we are. So I wonder about it. We are right now in where websites and TV and radio, as we know, is collapsing into something else, either like paid for or shorter bites or TikTok or... Yeah, I'm wondering what the next move for media people is going to be. That's what we're going to see it and adapt. It's going to be interesting.
People are going to have to adapt. And for me, it's looking at the skills that you have as opposed to the profession category that you fall within. So instead of going, I'm a journalist, it's going, I can do these things. Where is the gap in society for these skills?
That is the question. Even New York Times had a big piece on it. That's,
Yeah,
on all of us who came from big magazine shoots, big ad shoots, big modeling, all of these, TV shows. That is the question. Where are these skills going to go?
So for me, the individual has to...
we'll be there, but I can't see it yet.
The individual has to kind of go, okay, these are the skills. Like, what can I do to build a life?
Sometimes that might be just Uber driving, which isn't ideal. If we have brilliant people of journalism, it should be, it needs, these people need a platform. Like, I was hoping it would be online. Like, everyone who is a great writer would now have the chance to be a journalist online. But there is no budgets for that.
But there's different ways. Like I recognize that it's difficult, and I recognize that a lot of these things have collapsed. And I give that context again because I came to the space because there was opportunity there and I was capable. I look at it, I've realized over the years that I look at it slightly differently, where it's like the fact that you went from journalism to publicity, for me is like, okay, if the opportunity is there, it makes perfect sense,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't tie your person or your value to the particular profession. And I've never done that because I've worked in like 14, 15 different industries. And I've literally just gone into them because it's like, oh, this is the opportunity in front of me. Am I capable? Can I learn?
Is that why we're here on your podcast?
And then I'll go and do it. My podcast, I've realized that the thing that working in magazine taught me, I like finding out how people do the stuff they're doing and how they've lived their life. And I've built a career sharing that about myself. And when podcasts were starting, I wanted to start a podcast in 2012, 2013, because I was fascinated by it. I'm like, okay, you don't have to go on radio. You can just record talking to people. So I'm doing this because I can, and because I get to talk to people about their journeys and I learn from each one. But that's also because I'm in a position where I can do that. The things I do to make a living are totally separate from this. And they look after me enough for me to be able to do this because I've always wanted to try it. And one day I'll wake up and go, okay, I've done it. Let's run this course. Cool. And I'll do something else. But yeah, I realized
Sounds familiar.
I realized that because I'm not vested in the way that especially media people and magazine people, and I have friends who are editors and I've had conversations with them, and when they talk about, for example, magazine, like they light up. For me, it was literally somebody going, oh, some guys came to me, they want to start a magazine, you write. Will you edit it? I want to do these other things.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything right now. Cool. And then going and doing that. And then leaving that, and then I hear, oh, this magazine, Destiny Man, is looking for a new editor. It's like, well, I edited a magazine. Let me throw my name in the hat. And then getting the gig. And then walking away from it after 4 years because I was like, I feel like it's run its course.
Yeah.
And sure. it was just like, yeah, I feel like the space has run its course. And I move on really well. You asked me 2 weeks after I've left the space, do you miss it? And I'm like, miss where? Because I'm already on to
the next.
I don't plan well. So it's not like I leave a space knowing that I have a nest egg. Like I've walked out of places with not knowing how I'm going to pay bills tomorrow. But it's kind of like, okay, this is the opportunity in front of me right now. Does it fulfill something in my life, whether it'd be cool to do it or it's going to pay my bills? And that's kind of how I approach it. But yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I think we can have this discussion or this debate, because I think it's one that we need to have, and we need to get the different perspectives and get the different voices.
Absolutely.
To help everybody find their way through it.
Yeah, Kutlwano has a podcast too.
Is it?
Shades and Layers. So that was my first podcast I've ever been on,
dope.
and yours is the second. So thank you. I'm getting with the,
Dope.
new age.
And we had to chase after you for a while, but it's all right.
Man, I'm
you're
my
a busy
own
woman.
mom, my own dad, my own husband, my own wife, and my own boss. So it's gonna. It takes time, to have some free time.
No, all good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Please leave a review and subscribe. Check out the show notes for links to the guest, the podcast, and myself. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.